If you think Victor Wembanyama is the Defensive Player of the Year, you just don't know basketball. It's as simple as that. Stay tuned to find out why. The 7'4" French kid has been amazing in every way, shape, and form. The things he's able to do on both sides of the ball is something that's hard to believe from someone this young. However, while his offense does amaze you quite often, it's his defense that has grabbed the attention of most. Not only is the rookie leading the NBA in blocks, but he's leading in stocks, which is blocks and steals combined. And it's obvious that his impact has been felt. The Spurs went from being arguably the worst defense in the NBA last season to being 22nd, which still isn't great, but it's an improvement. Wemby's amazing defense has led many to believe that he's the best defender in the NBA and deserves the Defensive Player of the Year award, which is just insane. It's so funny how defense has been an afterthought for years, and great defenders like Draymond Green and Rudy Gobert have been criticized as players by the fans by saying things like Draymond was carried to all of his championships, or Rudy Gobert is an overrated defender and doesn't deserve those Defensive Player of the Year awards. I've seen it all, which goes to show that the average casual basketball fan doesn't truly understand nor care much about defense. But now, all of a sudden, a 7'4" alien comes into the league and plays great defense for one season, and now everyone, especially young fans, are crowning him as the best defender in the NBA and the Defensive Player of the Year. And what's worse is if you ask a fan why Victor deserves the award over everyone else, the first thing that they will say is blocks, which is a pretty stupid argument if you ask me. Defense is about much more than just blocking shots. The block statistic, while undeniably impressive, represents merely a fraction of a defender's impact on the court. While a blocked shot may elicit thunderous applause from the crowd, its significance often pales in comparison to other defensive actions that go unnoticed by the casual observer. Consider, for instance, the art of positioning, a fundamental aspect of defense that transcends statistical quantification. A defender's ability to anticipate offensive movements, deny passing lanes, and disrupt plays through timely rotations is often far more impactful than the occasional blocked shot. But that's the thing. Casual fans have no idea what it means to have timely rotations, or to have great positioning when defending in the pick and roll, nor do they even attempt to look for these details when watching a full game. They only look at offense. And even if they do try to look at those small defensive details, they simply don't have the understanding or IQ to be able to point it out. If we're being honest here, truly great defensive plays don't show up on the stat sheet. Those rotations are only seen by true ball knowers. And let's be real, nobody is watching Heat games, Magic games, or even Timberwolf games. The TV ratings show that Wemby and the Spurs are the most watched team. So in reality, there is a bunch of casuals who have rarely watched Bam Adebayo, Jonathan Isaac, and even someone like Jarrett Allen play, yet they say that Wemby is better than all of them. Like, what? Moreover, the block statistic fails to capture the essence of on-ball defense. The ability to stay in front of one's opponent, contest shots without fouling, and force difficult attempts is a testament to a defender's skill and discipline. Yet those contributions often go unrecognized in traditional box score metrics. Furthermore, the block statistic suffers from inherent biases and contextual limitations. Players who possess exceptional shot blocking abilities may accumulate impressive block totals, but this doesn't necessarily translate to superior overall defense. A player's role within a defensive scheme, the quality of their teammates, and the strategic objectives of their team all influence their statistical output. Rendering simplistic comparisons based on blocks alone inherently is flawed. For example, Miles Turner always has impressive block totals when he's healthy, yet his teams are never really great defensively overall, and when watching him play, it's clear why. He's a tremendous shot blocker, that goes without saying, but when it comes to pick and roll defense, rotations, communication, post defense, and many other details, he just isn't up to par with the game's most elite defenders, which is a huge reason why he is never able to lead an elite defense. To truly evaluate defensive excellence, you've got to adopt a holistic approach that considers a wide range of factors beyond mere statistical aggregates. Advanced metrics such as defensive rating, defensive win shares, and opponent field goal percentage provide valuable insights into a player's defensive impact, accounting for factors such as opponent quality, defensive versatility, and overall team performance. But of course, those stats, especially defensive rating, can be a horrible stat to use for comparing players because it lacks so much context, which is something you can say about pretty much every defensive stat out there. Moreover, qualitative assessments such as scouting reports, eye tests, and expert analysis offer invaluable perspectives on a player's defensive abilities that transcend numerical quantification. By observing a defender's footwork, positioning, communication, contested rebounding numbers, and basketball IQ, one can gain a deeper understanding of their contributions to the team's defensive identity. My point is, using the block stat as your argument as to why he's a better defender than, say, Rudy Gobert is something only a casual fan would do. And there's nothing wrong with being a casual fan. I'm just stating the facts. Side note, Manute Bol averaged 5 blocks per game during his rookie season in the 1985-86 season and led his team to a top 5 defensive ranking. And yet, he didn't win the award. Tim Duncan, Shaq, Hakeem, and David Robinson all had better or similar defensive rookie numbers in terms of blocks and steals than Wemby, yet they didn't win it either. And most of them actually led their defense to an elite ranking, unlike Wemby. So given those facts, why the hell should Wemby win the award even if they didn't? Why should Wemby get special treatment just because he's a freak generational prospect? He without a doubt deserves to be in the conversation, but to say he's the best defender and should be the frontrunner for Defensive Player of the Year when you have Rudy, Chet Holmgren, Bam Adebayo, AD, Herb Jones, Jarrett Allen, and OG running around is laughable. Another argument casual fans have for Wemby is that he should win the award because players are scared to do layups when he's in the paint. Honestly, when I hear this argument, I just assume whoever made it is under 10 years old, because there is no way someone over the age of 18 can make this statement. Every elite shot blocker prevents players from wanting to do layups in the paint. That's literally why they're elite shot blockers. I just recently saw a player from the Charlotte Hornets, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he literally had an open layup in transition, but refused to take it and brought the ball all the way out to the three-point line when he saw Chet Holmgren standing back in the paint. And in that same game, in another transition situation, a player was so afraid to try and lay it up over Holmgren that he threw the ball to a teammate in the corner, but the pass was so wild that it went over his head and went out of bounds. But of course, the media outlets like Bleacher Report, SportsCenter, and Overtime didn't post those highlights because it's not Wemby. AD, Rudy Gobert, Jaren Jackson Jr., Jarrett Allen, and Nick Claxton have all had numerous plays where players would turn down shots when they were near, and it's pretty funny to watch. But of course, casual fans wouldn't even notice those possessions because they don't watch their games. As we've been going over, fans saying Wemby is better than Gobert because of blocks just shows that fans don't really understand or love defense enough to learn what actual great defense looks like. And honestly, it's not even really their fault. The game has always been centered more towards offensive players, and as a kid growing up, handling the ball and shooting a jump shot was the skills that were focused on, even on a global scale. But one of the primary factors contributing to the lack of appreciation for elite defenders is the inherent bias towards offense in the basketball world. From the Showtime Lakers of the 1980s to the 7 seconds or less Phoenix Suns of the mid-2000s, the NBA has long celebrated teams and players who prioritize offensive firepower and scoring ability over defensive talent. As a result, elite defensive ability often takes a backseat to offensive exploits in the collective consciousness of fans and media alike. Or, to put it more simply, offense is simply more exciting. Furthermore, the rise of analytics and advanced metrics in recent years has further exacerbated the marginalization of defense in the eyes of fans. With a newfound emphasis on efficiency, spacing, and scoring efficiency, offensive statistics such as points per game, field goal percentage, and three-point shooting have become the primary yardsticks by which players are judged, relegating defensive metrics to secondary status. Another contributing factor to the underappreciation of elite defenders is the lack of visibility and recognition afforded to defensive specialists in mainstream media coverage and marketing campaigns. While offensive superstars such as LeBron James, Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, Kevin Durant, and Steph Curry are showered with endorsements, commercials, and media attention, elite defenders don't receive a quarter of that. Just imagine if someone like Herb Jones, Jaden McDaniels, OG, Lou Dorter, Matisse Thybulle were in Allstate commercials or announced they were partnering with Nike to release a new sick shoe. The first thought from basketball fans would be, who in the hell is this, and what has he done to deserve a commercial? He's averaging what, like 11 points per game? Totally ignoring or being oblivious to the fact that they are excellent defenders who put their favorite NBA players in jail. And not to mention the subjective nature of evaluating defense poses challenges in quantifying and comparing the contributions of elite defenders, further complicating efforts to evaluate their profile and recognition among fans. Unlike offensive statistics, which are easily quantifiable and readily accessible, defensive metrics such as steals, blocks, and defensive rating often fail to capture the nuances and complexities of defensive talent, leading to misconceptions and misinterpretations of a player's defensive impact. The last argument I hear for Wemby is that when he's on the floor, the Spurs defense is one of the best, and when he's off the floor, they're one of the worst. And again, I would assume anyone saying that is under the age of 10 years old. Like, come on, people. Obviously, if your best defender goes to the bench, your defense will suffer, especially if you don't already have a stacked defensive roster to begin with. You could say the same about any other elite defender. I promise you, when AD goes to the bench, the Lakers defense looks like a bunch of middle school kids. The same thing goes for the Utah Jazz. When Walker Kessler goes to the bench, I turn off the TV. The same thing for Bam Adebayo, Herb Jones, and other top defenders to a lesser degree. And that whole when Wemby is on the floor, the Spurs defense is one of the best argument is funny, because people totally forget that when Wemby is on the floor with Jeremy Sohan, who's been one of the best all-around defenders in the NBA, and Devin Vassell, who's been very solid defensively too, we need to rephrase that and say, when Wemby, Sohan, and Vassell are on the floor together, they are one of the best defenses in the NBA. Casual fans ignore Sohan and Vassell's impact just to amplify Victor's defensive impact, which just isn't fair. And another thing, who cares about that stat line anyway? Who cares what your team ranking is when only certain players are on the floor? Defense is about the team, not 3 players. So overall, the Spurs don't have a good defense. Great defenders make their teammates better defenders. Go look at how in the past, when Rudy Gobert was with the Jazz, how he carried worse defensive rosters than Wemby's to top 3 rankings. Go check out Gobert's 2017 roster. His second best defender was George freaking Hill. So if he was able to carry that defense to the top, why can't Wemby? And don't give me that less minutes BS. Wemby plays nearly 30 minutes per night. And in 2017, Rudy was playing literally just a few more minutes and still led his poor defensive roster to the top. And I'm not trying to bash on Wemby here. He is great. But after this video, I just hope you see why he isn't the Defensive Player of the Year. Should he be in the conversation? Sure. Is he one of the best defenders in basketball? Yes. And do I think he can win multiple Defensive Player of the Year awards in the future? Absolutely. Maybe even more than Gobert. But this season, I can name at least 7 or 8 defenders who have been better. Maybe even a few more than that. Now, is that a knock on Wemby? No, it's not. It just means that there is a crazy amount of defensive talent in the NBA. And if fans actually took the time to understand defense down to every detail and watch all the games, and not just Wemby's, I think you would all agree. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.